Well, hello there. Welcome to the Social Canvas with me, Carol. Today I'm going to show you how to paint this cute little bunny with a daisy chain, and I hope you can join in. If you want to join in, please use whatever you have. I'm using acrylic paints in assorted colours, mainly white, red, yellow, some blue and some black. If at any point you would like to stop, rewind, fast forward, whatever you need to do to join in, then I'd love that. So please do. So first of all, I'm going to just pencil out roughly the shape of the bunny first of all. I'm not going to do the background till afterwards, so let's get going. Okay, so if you've got a pencil, or anything really, if you're using crayons just as well, I'm going to keep the bunny central as I can. I'm going to do one of his ears kind of straight up and one of it bending over a little bit. So first of all, I want to make an idea of where my head's going. So I'm going to put the top of his head about there. So I'm just going to come round a bit. So make a roundish shape like this, so a bit of a half moon. And then I'm going to come down and make his cheeks quite big. It's not going to be probably in the same proportion as that one. So come out wider with his cheeks like that. Doesn't matter how many strokes you have to use with your pencil. And then I'm going to leave this line quite loose at the bottom. Doesn't have to be, you know, a perfect shape. Any of this doesn't, so that's a good thing, right? So as you can see, that's the shape I've got so far. Okay, as I said, this is going to be a little bit different from this one. So I'm going to come out from his shoulders and I'm just going to bring his very loose line again right down from the bottom of his body like that. And then at the top, this ear is going to be somewhere just over from the middle a bit, and I'm going to make it, again, you can see how I'm using my pencil, just these flopping, this one's flopping over maybe a bit more than that one, like that. And then this one I'm going to have come in maybe more straight up. Or you can flop it over if you want to. Maybe I'll flop the end over or something a little bit. And come it in. I have to correct that one just a little bit, make it come in a little bit further. So okay, so that's the shape so far. Hopefully you can see that well. You can modify your shapes however you would like. And let's see, so let's decide where the eyes are going to go first. Doesn't matter if we paint over it, but let's just make a sort of an oval shape right on the edge here. And the oval shape can come down a bit like a teardrop, really. I'm going to do it on the same side over here. Not reaching quite to the edge, slightly in a bit, like that. Okay, and then the nose is right down here. We'll just sort of come in at an angle like that, and then bring the little line down. So it's like a Y, really, or a martini glass if you're an adult here watching, but it's a bit like a Y. Okay, we'll bring it down a bit further and round it out a little bit like that, right at the bottom there. You can see how I've rounded that out, hopefully, like so. All right, so that's the body shape. As I said, this is my prototype, but it may not be the one that it will exactly look like. So that's the shape, and I think what we'll do now, while we've got the shape going, is let's get the colour on. Don't worry about painting over the eyes or whatever. We know they'll show through. So I'm gonna get a medium-sized brush. So I've got a small angle brush here, and I'm going to paint in some of the colour by making an orangey tone, as you can see there. So I'm grabbing some yellow and some red. See how that makes a nice orange, but I'm going to grab a little bit of white because I don't want it too bright. So yellow, red, and a little bit of white in there. And of course, as this is acrylic, you need some water, so make sure you've got some to keep it flowing. So let's just paint all the ear one colour. We can put some tones on there in a minute. It's a little lighter again. I might grab a little bit more red, just a little bit more. Doesn't matter if you start lighter and get darker. That's the way to go, really. So let's just Got a bit more reddish orangish tone on there, like that. Same thing here. Oh, we're going a little bit red on that one. More of a reddy orange. I'm not too worried. I can grab a little bit of white in with my mixture and dumb it down a little bit, but I'm going to put some different accents in here anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. Okay, maybe a little bit more red I'm going to put in the ear, just a touch here and there, especially right up where the ear comes in at the bottom here. So a little bit more red right just there, like that, and right just here, like that, and a little bit there, and a little bit more there. Okay, so we've got some different colours going in on there, and I like that. Okay, so now I'm going to grab the same tone, orange and yellow, with a little bit of white, and I'm going to paint all that in. I think, you know what, I'm going to go around my eyes rather than paint them in. So we can do the same thing all the way out. I think it's okay to paint over your pencil lines if you can see them still underneath. So that should work out fine. Let's get all this in, like that. As I said, if I'm going a little fast for you, you can always stop it while you catch up, rewind it if you need to. It's the joy of YouTube. All right, so you notice I've come all the way around the bottom here like that, but I haven't touched that little bit there. I'm going to leave that the way that is. I'm using the flat side of my brush to just blend a little bit of that colour nicely, so I don't have too many brush strokes. So I'll probably go back in here and put some more in anyway, so I'm not too bothered. All right, so there's his little face, or her. Okay, for the fur at the bottom, I'm going to use the same thing, same colour, I should say, and I'll probably put lots of different tones on it like I have on that little, that's a little light, so a little bit more yellow and red. You can use your brush really sort of loosely on this, because fur, it needs to be kind of seen a little bit, so it doesn't want to be one flat colour, so just use different strokes, and they can be poking out a little bit at the sides too, so like coming out of your line a bit, nice and loose. I actually quite like seeing the pencil lines myself. I don't want to completely get rid of them. It's a little bit darker under his chin because of course there's a bit of a shadow there, so you can get the darker tone going under there. Again, I've got that little bit there, that's a little bit different from this, and I'm trying to not paint in that bit just there. It's kind of his mouth. Okay, so that's the basis of our bunny in. How good is that? Okay, so I'm gonna, before I go on, I'm gonna just put some different tones in here. And when I say different tones, you can add like a lighter tone or a darker tone as you wish. Like if I grab some white on my brush and I just draw in some white, you see what happens is you get a bit more of a fur looking effect. So I'm just going to draw some of that in there and just bring those tones in. I mean, this is a simple painting. I'm not going to make it too complicated because, you know, if people want to join in with their kids, then I certainly don't want to make it too complicated. And that's not good. I'm going to do some similar things on the face, but not too much in the way of, so I'm now grabbing a bit more red, and again I'm just going to put a few of those. This perhaps won't show up so much. If it was dry it would, so when it's dry we'll be able to put some more of those lines back in there and they'll show up a little bit more. As for his face, okay, so you can see there's a little bit more darkness where the nose is, so I'm going to grab a bit more red and I'm going to bring that red round from the top of his eye or her eye right down to the nose a bit like that, and the same there, right up to the head actually, like that. And I might just blend it down a bit more. In fact, I'm just going to grab a little bit more red right where the nose is, and a little bit more red right out on his cheeks. It's not too dark, it's just a very subtle orangey red. And right where his little nose is, or mouth is, again, it's a little bit more pinky just here. I'm just going to put a little bit pinky red right in there like that. And a bit more coming down right under the chin there. Probably make that a bit darker as we go along too. Okay. Alright, his ears do need some more work, so always have some paper towel handy because you're going to need it. Okay, so with his ears I think we'll just go back in with some more of that darker orange and add in some accents here and there. I'm going to come right down on the edge of mine now, as you can see, and also on the outside here. Just cover up the edges of the pencil a little bit, and might just bend this one over a little bit more. He's bent pretty much the same as the other one. Not what I meant, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's the basic colour. I can add some accents here in a minute, but first and foremost I'm going to wipe that brush off and grab a smaller detail, which is like a round small brush. I'm going to wet it in my water, dip it in my water, and I've got some black here. So I've got some black paint. Now with this black paint I want to make sure it's wet enough that it works well for me, so I've just put enough water in there. Don't want it dripping, because if it drips it's not going to look good. So I'm just mixing it in really. Palette knife is always good to mix as well, to get a good blend go in there. I don't want to make this complicated, so I keep saying I want to make it simple. So now I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to give it some edge. Now you'll see that I'm using little strokes here. I don't want it to be too much of a line, so I'm just coming right down to the top of the head. Again, very loose line. Doesn't matter if the lines are all rough, because that's the whole point of this, is going to look a bit rougher where the fur is. Little tiny strokes. Again, rough lines are good. I see it looks a lot bigger, but it'll make it look smaller if I bring the black line in a little bit. So on the inside there I'm going to make it a little bit darker too. And I'll probably bring that in like this, because some of the hair is coming right down into the bottom there of his ear. And a similar thing, just gonna make that a loose line. Whoops. Coming down here as well. Doesn't matter if it's not a perfect shape either. Okay, so I want to outline now some of the head as well, just the top of the head like that. I'm going to come around here again. It doesn't matter if your lines are not perfect and they're, you know, they're loosely sort of look like the fur is kind of sticking out a bit. You can always put that in afterwards as well. And try not to lean in any wet paint, so it does dry quick, but of course it depends on how thick you put it on. If you put it on quite thickly, then it's going to take a while to dry. So okay, so from the middle here of the nose, I'm going to just bring that in like that, and in like that, and then just the line from the middle of the nose coming down. And let's bring that out like that, and like that. And again, I'm just going to bring some lines down loosely from there like that. All right. I don't want to make his fur too black, of course. That's not what I'm aiming for. It's not supposed to be. But I'm going to also just want to outline a little bit of the outside here. Again, very, very, I'm not pressing very hard. I just want to make some light strokes like that. Okay, where his little mouth is, I'm just going to put some black right in there. A little bit, round it out a little bit like that. There we go. And his eyes, I'm going to do all black, but I may just leave it. You can either paint them all black and do the white dot afterwards, or you could leave a little white dot in the middle. Bring that out there like that. Do the outside first. It's much easier if you can do the outside. I'm going to leave my white. Let's do a circle there. If it's not in the right place afterwards and you wish it was further down or the other side, that you can paint over it and just wait for it to dry and put a white dot on there. I'm going to bring this over slightly over there and slightly up there. Okay, it's got quite big eyes. It's my bunny. You want to be reasonably equal, so whatever size you've done this one, you want to try and make sure you can equal it out that side. And try and, you have to keep, you're using acrylic, roll that brush on your palette so that you get a nice point on it. Okay. We're getting there, Mr. Bunny. Okay, so far so good. Smarten up any bits that you want to do. But that's the basis of our bunny. We're going to add little accents once this is dry. I know this is still a little wet, so I don't want to go too quick too soon. So I'm going to leave that now, and what we'll do while waiting for that to dry is let's do some of the outside. So I'm going to grab a big brush. This is quite a big brush, as you can see. It's a big flat brush, but any brush will do. To make a turquoise, you just grab a little bit of green. Well, you can do, yeah, let's just do this. If you've got green already, that's great, but I'm going to grab some white in with that. And a bit more blue. And then a bit more white, because turquoise is a bit more softer. So to make it, you know, this is your choice what background you do, but I don't want to make mine very dark, so I'm putting quite a lot of white in there. Get a very light turquoise colour. Maybe a little bit more blue than green. Small amounts is good, and then we'll see how that turns out. So I'm going to paint all of the background. There's a little bit of green in there, that's okay. Of course you can paint blue if you want to. The sky is blue, not too much green on mine. enough water, of course, too. Doesn't matter if you do cross over your line a little bit, you can always put it back in, so don't worry if you inadvertently go in to your lines there. But you don't really want to see the white showing through, so it's always good to... And of course it doesn't also matter if you've got, let's say if I picked up some white by mistake and I'm like, oh no! It doesn't matter because it will blend in anyway if it's still wet. And it's also okay not to have a perfect flat colour background. And I actually prefer that myself, to have a different colour background rather than a one-tone background. And we want the daisies to show up, so I like it to be reasonably dark so they do show up. Go around your edges first. I've still got a lot of green on mine. I'm going to wipe it off. That's why we have the paper. So if you find like I've got a lot of green coming off, because the first colour I made had a lot of green in, so I'm just going to wipe that off and get a bit more white and blue going. Dab slowly around the outside. Oops, see, doesn't matter how much you wipe off, I've still got some green on there. That's how hard you press sometimes as well. If you press in harder, then if you use your brush for a different colour, it's going to eventually show up on there, so do beware of that. Try and make sure you cover all your canvas too, and use different strokes. Like, you know, a lot of people use like a cross shape like this to get rid of any marks. Whatever it works for you, but you know, the best thing to do is use your brush very softly on its side to get rid of any brush marks that you don't like. But as I said, this is not a painting that really matters if you see some brush strokes, because you could cover over them with another coat if you want to. I do like turquoise, one of my favourite colours. Carefully around the outside here. Now, as you can see, we've got some grass coming in, so I'm not going to go too far down. I'm probably just going to leave it loose right at the bottom here, because I'm going to put some grass in coming up from the bottom. So I'm going to leave that like that. And the same thing on this side. And if you're getting a bit dry, just grab a little bit more water and put it back into your paint colour, and you'll see it flows a lot better. Okay. See, I'm varying the direction of my brush. Okay, so I got that in there. So the easiest thing to do now is get some of that yellow again, put it in with my blue, and when I get yellow and blue, of course, it makes green. So I'm going to bring some different shades. Now you can do this, you can come upside down on your painting and just bring some of those in like this. Just make sure you're covering all your canvas first at the bottom with your green, and then you can highlight some different tones of green afterwards. I'll do that. And I'm using the side of my brush where I'm going to get some sort of grass-like blades. See, like that. And again, if you keep making a tone and it's a different tone each time, that doesn't matter with grass, of course, because you're going to see all different tones of colour in there anyway. So if you end up with a different colour green, a little blue green like I have here, and you can put some yellow green in a bit later if you want to. Alright, I might just put a little bit of white back in with a little bit of yellow so that I can get more of a lighter tone green. See if that shows up a little bit. I think it will. I won't just spend too much time on this then. Like that. A bit of that yellow tone green in there. And you can also grab some white. If you grab also some white in there. I'm not washing my brush off when I'm doing this because my paint's still wet. It blends in, so it's not such a like a bright white or anything like that. It's more of a subtle tone coming in there like that. Okay. Oops. Come up to there a bit. All right. Let's see what that looks like the right way up. It's good, good, good. Okay. So far, so good. He's good, good, good. All right. So now this should all be nice and dry. So I'm going to put a few of the white accents on around his eyes, nose, etc. So I'm going to clean off my small brush again and I'm going to grab some white. Again, I'm rolling that brush on the side. And so here I'm going to bring a little bit of white around his eye like that. I'm just making his eye a little bit smaller actually. Right underneath. I might just bring that right out to the side there, like that. So around his eye. Be careful not to lean in the paint, of course, if you're still wet. Try not to, but or you can stop and wait until yours is dry. I'm come right down here again. I'm just going to bring that out to the side a bit, like that. Loosely done. All right. And right underneath his nose, I'm going to bring a little bit of white there. If you look at some, they sort of look like they've got a little white moustache going on. Flip that out at the side, like that. And then I'm going to bring some of that white also right down here. But again, it doesn't matter if you're coming outside your lines a little bit. Very faintly done around there, like that. And then I'm going to add a few little accent white pieces going back into the coat here. Not much, just a little. And you know what? I'm going to put a little white dot somewhere on his nose. He's a cute little guy. And also I'm going to bring his pupils, white area I should say, a little bit bigger because he's got bigger eyes on this one than he has on that one. So you can see they're not particularly perfect shape. He looks a bit googly-eyed now, doesn't he? All right, and I'm going up here to put a little bit more of the fur-like structure. And you can see I'm just pushing my brush in there. Plenty of white on there. I'm going to bring that right in his ear. right round the outside of his ear like that. Again, right up there. Very loosely done this. Like that. All right. Okay, so there's a few other things that I need to do. I'm going to still use this small brush. I'm going to make a sort of a grey rather than a black. So I'm going to grab my black back again, tiny bit of white in with it. I'm going to take it to the side to make that. So I don't want it too dark. And I'm just going to put some little dots where his hair is coming out of, but I didn't want it to be too dark. So you can put that all around there. Right, and the other place I'm going to go to, I'm grabbing a little bit more black than too much grey, and I'm going to give him a little eyelash. So I'm going to come from the top here and just bring a bit, 2 bits down like that. So coming from the top of his eye, bringing it down, you can bring it out in 2 bits like that. So he's got some eyelashes. So with Mr. Bunny here, I'm going to decide, actually his eye's a bit too long, so I'm going to just bring some more white down across his eye a little bit. I think I've made him a little bit too big, so I'm just always stand back and have a look anyway and see if you like him. Okay. All right, so now daisies. Daisy chain. Let's do a daisy chain. Again, with this, I'm going to use a small angled brush, but you can use a small round brush if you have one. Again, any of these will do. And I'm just going to make the green. If you have a green already, you can use a straight green, or you can make a green with yellow and blue. I've still got yellow on here, so I'm just going to make a reasonably dark one. I always, with this brush, have to flatten it on both sides so that it stays quite. I'm going to grab a teeny amount of white in with that, and that's because it covers a lot better with a little bit of white. So again, I'm flattening the both sides so I get a bit more of an angle on my brush. And then I'm going to start my daisy chain coming from here. Going to loop some of mine round like that. You're going to run out of paint probably quickly, so you'll have to put some more on. My daisy chain is sort of hanging over the ear, and I'm going to loop it round again like that, and I'm going to have it coming off that ear. And then I'm going to just leave it coming off that side there. If the green doesn't show up that great, you may need to go over it again. It doesn't matter if you do it. I would do it when it's dry though, rather than when it's wet. So I'm going to leave mine for now. There's a few now I did outline my little prototype here with black. I'm going to not do that and see what it looks like. If it shows up well, then I won't need to do that. So I'm going to use my small round brush, and I'm going to grab some white on my brush like so. Again, I'm going to roll it a little bit on the palette so it's not too broken up there. And so this is where I'm going to put some. If your white doesn't show up well, yes, you may need to go over it a few times, but the tip is I'm leaving the middle free. So in other words, when I'm painting the daisy, I'm not going right into the middle, I'm leaving a space. It's easier to do the yellow then, and it looks a little bit more authentic. So it will show up, the thing is with white, it will show up much better on a darker background. But unless you've got a heavy bodied paint, which very professional people have heavy body paints, but I know kiddies don't, so it will show up, but maybe not as well as. We'll do a few of these and maybe we'll highlight them on the outside with black. You can do that first, or you can do pencil. If you want to pencil them all in first, there's another idea too. Or you can use a marker. That will definitely make it stand out. So these are kind of hanging off the daisy chain, the chain I should say. They don't have to have a stem hanging off. If you want to put one on, you can. But so it shows up a lot better, as you can see, on the dark background. All right. You can do as many as you want to, or as few as you want to. Once you get the yellow on, it kind of gives it a nice pop as well of colour. If your brush starts to not behave how you want it to, it might be because you've got a heavy brush of paint, so you might want to wipe it off or roll it on your palette to get it going again. Like mine. Do one right down here in the grass. There we go. Any more? I think I'm just going to do one by itself over here. It's kind of flying off a little bit in the wind, maybe. All right. Okay, so I'm going to grab some yellow. Now with yellow, I will say that it will show up much better if you put a touch of white with it again. So if you grab some yellow and put a little bit of white, mix a little bit of white in with it, then that will show up much more brightly. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's not too bad. Now if your paint is gone right into the middle, you might find it's blending a little bit, so you might want to wait until it's completely dry before you do that. There we go. Okay, so this is where you decide if you want to do an outline of black like I did on this one around the petals and around the, you know, it's entirely up to you how many you do, or if you want to put a few more down here. This is where I just do a little bit of tidying up. I'm going to grab a little bit of black, I think, in with my green. Simple reason is because I want that to highlight a little bit more than it's highlighted. So I'm just going to do that. My green, and I'm just going over it very subtly here and there, like on the curve there, just so it stands out a little bit. Maybe a little bit there, a little bit there. All right. Of course, I want to put some whiskers on my guy. So for the whiskers, I'm going to, well, you know, you can use white or you can use black. Again, this is up to you what you prefer, but you need a teeny tiny brush or a good point on a brush to do those. Or if I was you, I would probably just get a marker or a pencil and do it if you want to use black. But if you want to use white, of course, you're going to have to. So I'm going to be very careful on this. I'm going to put a fair amount on the top of my brush there, and I'm going to just bring some out very slowly to the side. I'm not going to put as many as I put dots for, but some very soft ones. Again, you don't want them too thick, so you don't want to press very hard. You just want to press very lightly to get some shape. It doesn't matter if your line's broken. It's just really the impression of those little tiny whiskers. Press very lightly. Right, I'm almost done. The only thing I'm going to do, I think, is just add a couple more accents on his face. And what I'm going to do here, because I think I have a little bit more yellow in this, I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red. I want sort of more of an orangey red than I do more of a, more of a yellowy red than I do a reddish one. So I'm just going to bring a little bit of tone of, oops, get enough water on my brush would be good. More of a lighter orange just in here a little bit. I think he needed a little bit more of a tone. If you put a little bit of white in with it too, again, it will stand out a little bit. So I'm just bringing that right in the sides of his face and a little bit up there, like that. Oh, he looks a bit better now. He's got a bit more of a colour tone in his face. And this is also something I'm going to do, is just add a few more tones of colour in his coat. Doesn't matter if you put a bit of red or orange in there, that's fine. And if you don't like the black, I would suggest you can make that a little bit greyer just by adding a little bit of white to some grey and softening it out a little bit, which I'm going to do. And then we're done. Your bunny is done. You can try this again if you want to. If you didn't like your first version, you just have a go again. Just bring a little bit of that grey in there. And again, if you want to put some hair in the face, just be very subtle with it. Just very subtle bits coming in to his head. I'm not going to do too much. I'm just going to bring a little bit of that tiny bit of grey, again, coming down to his nose. Maybe a little bit of that grey into his coat. More into his nose. There you go. There is my Easter bunny with a few daisies hanging out. Thanks for joining me. I hope you can come and watch me do some more on my channel soon. And have a great Easter. Bye.